You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Beyond the Gates fans, I want to talk about Leslie Thomas and her wicked schemes and what she's going to do next when she finds out money can't buy happiness and cannot solve all of your problems. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to dive into 5 things I think Leslie may do as her antics get more wild when she finds out the fortune that she fell into isn't fixing her life. And hey, please click subscribe if you're not following us. Now let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is I think Leslie's going to try and make Nicole think that she and Ted are regularly bed buddies. I mean, it was really awful that Leslie ran over to Ted's hotel room after Eva said that he was drunk. That's very typical of Leslie. And honestly, I don't even think Ted was sober enough to consent. Not that that would stop her. And then when he woke up hungover and saw her there, Ted freaked out, and that hurt Leslie, you know, when he tossed her aside yet again, when she was calling him Teddy Bear, which is terrible. But Nicole is the woman for him. And I knew when they showed Ted's suit and tie laying there that Leslie was going to grab that tie and flaunt it. I thought she might wait a minute, hold back, do it later. No, she went right to it, you know. Leslie laid that right in Nicole's face, and heck, she might have even been the one to buy him that tie. And Leslie wanted to make it very clear to Nicole that she and Ted are lovers again. She wants her to think they are rekindling their romance, which of course comes at the worst possible moment because Nicole was just thinking about giving Ted another chance. And if Leslie finds out that Nicole is thinking about giving him another chance, I think she is going to keep it up and ramp it up and do everything she can to have Nicole thinking that they are still sleeping together, which could be the absolute end of the road for Nicole and Ted. However, it also makes Leslie the consolation prize, which sounds terrible, but I don't think she even cares. The second thing to talk about is I think Leslie is going to look for answers about who is her dad. You know, we've seen Leslie busy spending all that money that Anita endowed for Barbara's family. But once shopping gets tiresome, which it eventually will, you know, even for new money hungry, thirst trapping Leslie, she may get introspective and ask some more questions about her origins. She found out from Peaches about her mom, Barbara, but there's still this big gap there. The question is, who is Leslie's father? There's been some suspicions that it might be Vernon Dupree, and he could be part of the reason that Barbara and the Articulates fell apart. I'm sure they're going to circle back around at some point to Leslie's paternity story. There's not a lot of men on BTG old enough to be Leslie's dad. Vernon really is the only one that fits the bill. However, it could be somebody off screen. You know, Vernon may have a brother, and Leslie can call him Uncle Vernon instead of Daddy Vernon. I still am kind of hoping that Leslie is Vernon's spawn, because that would be the worst possible thing for the Dupree family. And we know the hits just keep coming. They just have one drama after another. The third thing to talk about is I think Leslie is going to entrench herself into Fairmont Crest and find the most aggravating places to put herself. So Anita and Vernon thought they'd done an end run with the board at Fairmont Crest Country Club to block Leslie from membership, even though it usually comes automatically with the purchase of a house beyond the gates, which Leslie has done. But then Leslie was so happy to rub it in Nicole and Anita's faces that Leslie basically bribed the board by offering to build a new athletic wing, and she's got her membership. They didn't stop anything. I'm guessing Anita's going to start seeing Leslie everywhere she turns. For instance, you know that Anita's on a bunch of charity boards and committees and fancy things that rich ladies do that engage in philanthropy. I do suspect Leslie is going to try and join those same organizations and the same boards. Because, Leslie's not happy unless she's making somebody else uncomfortable. And I think she wants to continue to be a thorn in Anita's side. Leslie has no chill, no ability to just be content with what she's got. And thanks to Anita and Vernon, Leslie's got a lot, more than she's ever had in her life. And Eva just wishes her mom would go shopping, leave the Duprees alone, and just be thankful for this multi-million-dollar miracle, but she's not. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is Leslie trying to get Ted back in her bed for real. Now, speaking of miracles falling into her lap, Leslie was so excited she got the chance to fall back into Teddy Bear's bed. I mean, letting Leslie in the room was such a tactical mistake for Ted to make. Leslie already had this insane fantasy in her head about them being meant to be and that they're soulmates and just all this nonsense. And that's why Eva was so upset with her dad, Ted, for opening the door and doing the deed with her mom. Because Eva's been working on trying to get Leslie past this fantasy of ever being with Ted. Eva does not want her parents reunited. She seems to be Team Nicole. She would like to see Ted and Nicole's marriage put back together because Eva feels so guilty about being part of why it was torn apart. And now that Leslie had a taste of Ted again, I think she's going to double down on the insanity, especially if she gets a big reaction from Nicole over the tie drop and the implication that Leslie is a continual guest in Ted's bed. Now, I don't think Ted will ever knowingly hop back in bed with Leslie. However, I can see her going to great lengths to get what she wants from Ted. Leslie might get Ted drunk and try and play hop on pop with him again. I could see Leslie drugging him to get past those pesky consent issues and even take some photos of them to send to Nicole. I just don't think Leslie's going to stop until she gets more sexy time with Ted, and I think she will cross any line to make it happen. The last thing I want to talk about is Leslie looking for a partner in crime who is also unhappy with what's happening to them beyond the gates. Considering that Hayley is also an outsider who's living in a big mansion in Fairmont Crest and getting the cold shoulder, they've got a lot in common. If you remember Hayley's first time at the club, Danny came over and just slapped Hayley's face. That was the big welcome to Fairmont Crest moment that was heavily teased in the initial promo when Beyond the Gates first began. Now, more than 120 episodes later, we have this new interloper, Leslie, who a lot of people dislike more than they did Hayley. I mean, Leslie's basically telling Hayley, hold my beer, watch how it's done. So we briefly saw Leslie trying to conspire with Hayley I think it was a month or so back when they had a run-in at Orphe Jeans, and it didn't seem to come to anything. However, Hayley and Leslie are both living beyond the gates. They're both not accepted. They're both getting pushback from the Duprees. They may find sympathy with each other. I think it'd be wild if Hayley and Leslie started lunching together at the club. The Duprees would flip. And if they start plotting together, honestly, the Duprees and Ted and Bill may not even stand a chance. I know a lot of fans really hate Leslie, and I agree the character is terrible. But the best villains are ones that you love to hate on. Actress Trisha Mann, who plays Leslie, recently addressed a fan who made a TikTok video that went viral, and they were talking about how much they hate Leslie. And the actress came in and commented on the post and said, hold on to your seatbelt because Leslie's about to give 10 more reasons to hate her. And then she thanked them for loving and hating her character. It was very wild. She understands the difference between people hating her and people hating the character, and she's embracing it, at least the character hate. And there's a lot more to come.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.